On this week's episode of Amari Purple Talk, Rainbow Children and One Night Alone postponed, Grammys air date confirmed, the Purple Spotlight, Bite the Boots, and more. Amari Purple Talk starts now. Welcome to episode 32 of Amari Purple Talk, a Prince podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, your imagination funk soloist, and let's go ahead and get started on the show. And we're going to start with our first topic, and our first topic today concerns the Rainbow Children and One Night Alone reissues. Okay, the official word from Sony as well as the Prince estate that the April 17th release of the One Night Alone and Rainbow Children reissues that has now been moved to Friday, May 29th. And of course, this is due to everything that's going on in the world. Various lockdowns across the globe, many cities and states here within the United States as well. And of course, there are businesses that are to remain open as they provide essential services. So given the various logistics operations, it's probably better suited that they focus the attention on getting essential supplies and equipment to the organizations that need them. Healthcare facilities, first responders across the board, police departments, fire departments, you name it, state, city, essential services. As well as people that are, or individuals that are in need, or families that are in need of essential medicines and equipment and survival items as well. So we are definitely across the various states, in states of emergency on a state level. This is a national concern or federal concern as well. So that being said, I'm not upset that these releases are being postponed. I know we're all kind of sheltered in, most of us. I'm sheltered in on a part-time basis. Like I said, I'm still struggling with the essential part of my particular position, although that the company I work for does provide essential services. But where I've been getting just in my little area has not been the case at all. In fact, contrary to various orders that are in place, there are people that have been utilizing this for basically non-essential stuff. And like I said, I, for one, don't personally feel as if I'm making a difference. It's very few people that are making a difference, that are being served, but the rest of you, please stay home. Because it's doesn't make me feel any better, and all the thank yous in the world are just really empty at this particular point. Because like I said, the people that are essential, your medical personnel, on that level, they're my heroes. Those are the heroes, the real heroes, the first responders, your food service personnel, that type of thing. But the rest, I know it's kind of hard, or you really should just be walking the dog or just taking a walk if you just need fresh air. But there are certain things that, trust me, all across the globe, we're dealing with the exact same thing. And I know it's rough, but the better we kind of shelter in, the quicker we can try to get this resolved. So that's just me venting. But getting back to the topic at hand, like I said, I'm not upset that the reissues are being postponed. Like I said, I was very excited for the release of Rainbow Children and One Night Alone. Those were two items that had disappeared from my personal Prince collection, and I was looking forward to having those items back. Of course, I can always go on Tidal if I actually want to hear the songs. So there is that. But yeah, I was looking forward to having that physical media in my hands come April 17th. But again, like I said, let's keep these channels open as much as we possibly can for the essentials. So if you're ordering food or, food items or whatever survival items that you need while sheltering in, like I said, essential business, if you're in the healthcare field, if you're a first responder, let's keep those channels open for those heroes. And like I said, it's just a CD. Yes, albums matter because it's kind of keeping our sanity, but at the same time, we've got access to the songs, just not in, for most of us, not in physical media. But like I said, I've got Tidal if I want to hear the songs. There's plenty of other albums, whether it's on vinyl or CD or cassette or on one of these streaming services. That's keeping me pretty sane right there. So I, for one, like I said, let's keep these channels open for the essentials. And yeah, just wait till May 29th and hopefully we'll be in a position to where we can start venturing out again. As far as, say, ordering from Amazon and things of that nature, if you get your items from your local record store as well, by all means, come May 29th, let's be out there and let's go out and support those stores as well, or any small business that's out there. And, let's help each other get each other back on our feet. So, so come May 29th, we'll be there, we'll be ready, we'll have our money in hand and, we'll be there to support, in this case, since this is Amari Purple Talk, in this case, we're here, we'll support the estate at that time. And plus, thank you to Sony and thank you to the Prince estate for making that decision to postpone it. Again, because like I said, we're all in the same boat and things change by the minute and we're all feeling different levels of emotions right now because we've never been here before. I don't think that even if there is an individual that was around during the Spanish flu in the early 20th century, which is probably the closest equivalent to what we're feeling now. But again, that's 100-year difference. So if there's an individual now that remembers that, if we can get some wisdom on what did you guys do to survive it and how do we survive it? Even with all the amenities and the advancements from the last 100 years, we're still human beings with emotions and feelings. And like I said, this is uncharted territory for a lot of us. So again, we'll get through this together. So let's just hang in there. But again, like I said, I'm not upset that we won't get this on April 17th, but I'm willing to wait. And also, too, I wanted to take a minute to, let me pull this up here, since we're on the subject of reissues. Yeah, I wanted to respond to one of our steady listeners. They posted a question on one of the comments a few days ago And this is from, let's see, because I want to make sure I've got the name correct. Okay, and it's from I Am Communicator. And I Am Communicator writes, Amari Purple Talk, I take it you're not a fan of re-release projects. I love them because those projects are being reintroduced to a whole new generation of potential funketeers that didn't have the opportunity to listen or watch Prince back in '78. 4 years ago, after he passed, it seemed as though the general mandate from Purple Fam was to protect the legacy, but I don't see that as much anymore. All right, I Am Communicator. Thank you very much for sending in that question or comment. And let's see, I'll start off with the first part of the topic. I am a fan of re-release projects. Let's see, I'm not sure when you started listening to the show, but I've covered several episodes where I've definitely defended a lot of people who didn't have the advantage of being around during the so-called the classic era, which would be like for some 1978 through about 1988 or so. And usually the sort of criticism that comes up is any one of these reissues, especially when it comes to the classic material. There's definitely a lot of us that automatically just go for the classic material, but I feel that a lot of us in the Purple or the Prince musical singularity are basically, they're diverse. So everyone has a particular era that they are attached to. So with that being said, usually sometimes when there's a reissue, I notice a lot of criticism, and even I've gotten a lot of criticism about reissues and the classic era, or other eras that I'm a fan of. And usually these people are people that they have everything. They've got all the officially released albums. They have all the bootlegs. And because the estate chooses to release a particular item or reissue a particular item, then they're upset because they have everything. And they just want some more of what they don't have. And my defense for people like myself and other listeners, we fall into two different categories. I, for one, was around for just about all of the classic era and every era in between. Now, there's some albums that I love, regardless of whether it's the classic period or later periods. And there's a few albums that I'm definitely not a fan of, even if it was a classic period or later period. Now, that being said, there's also fans and listeners that, may be of a certain age that either weren't around during the classic era, and whether they're experiencing through their parents' collections or grandparents' collections, or, it could be somebody that was around but never bothered to check Prince out and decided to see what all the fuss was about. So to me, those reissues are vital because it brings new listeners, new fans aboard. And then there are people like myself, where once upon a time I had every album from just about every era and a few, I call them collector's items now, but let's call them for what they are, a few bootlegs here and there. So over time, and for Couple of reasons. I won't go into them on this episode. I've discussed them in previous episodes, but there are some items that are no longer part of my collection. And for people like myself, those reissues are vital because now I can get them back and rebuild my collection and get it to the level to where at some point I'll have everything again. So in regards to that, no, I am a fan of the reissues, and they definitely serve a vital purpose. And especially to a lot of newbies out there, I definitely envy that first time experience that they'll have when they'll listen to, say, like a Rainbow Children or One Night Alone. And let's see, in regards to the second part of the question regarding that there were those within the Prince musical singularity that, in the beginning it was all about protecting the legacy, but I Am Communicator doesn't quite see it that way anymore. That's a tough one for me. I don't think I've noticed a lack of support. Actually, I kind of see the opposite a little bit. Now, in the beginning, and I think it just had to do more so with the quality of what was being released. Because in the beginning, you had the Prince Forever collection that was released, and that was within the first 6 months or so after Prince's passing. And that one was pretty much, I think, well received. Of course, with all of these reissues, and again, because of the diversity, there are going to be some negative opinions about each and every release that comes out. And that's fine, because music is subjective. So whatever you might like, someone else may not like. What I like, someone else may not like, and vice versa. And that's okay. Whatever you get out of it, that's perfect. So, but with the Prince Forever release, I think for the most part, that was supportive. And I think people were just more so anxious about what was coming next, because that was a definite first step in the right direction. You get the hits out, and there's a lot of newbies out there. And of course, this was the first 6 months after his passing as well. So that was an opportunity to bring in, not only us fans to support the legacy, but bring on a whole new group of listeners that, again, they've only may have heard of him, but never really checked out his catalog, or may know only just Purple Rain, and that's it. And we're curious to see what there's 2 CDs of hits on here. So did he really have that many? Let's see what they sound like. And again, younger generations that discover it. Again, in previous episodes, you've heard me speak about my sort of gateway into the Beatles. I was 10 years old. There were no Beatle fans around me or in my family, so to speak. Not any diehard fans that put an album in my face and said, hey, you really got to check these guys out. No, it was a compilation. And actually, if you go to my latest What's in the Crate blog post, well, actually the one before, because the current one's Rufus-ized by Shaka Khan and Rufus. But if you check out the previous one, which is the Beatles Rock and Roll Music Album, it was a compilation that was released around 1976. So I was 10, and I remember the commercial for it coming on television. And I just liked what I heard and wanted that album. So I asked for it a few weeks later. I got it. And, that opened my world, because then I was just listening to The only albums I owned were just the Jackson 5. Now I had like 45s of other artists, say like maybe Temptations, had a few blues ones in there, Bobby Bland and stuff like that. The most current stuff I had was Al Wilson's Show and Tell and BT Express's Do It Till You're Satisfied. But, this was sort of one of those first albums that expanded my horizons beyond, what was in my environment. So, 10 years old, it's 6 years after they broke up. So, now became a Beatle fan for life. Just have just about everything from them, just like I have just about everything from Prince, and immersed myself in the history, learned who everybody was. 10 years later, became a huge John Lennon fan. So so that's the purpose of reissues or compilations, deluxe box sets, not only for the diehard fans that are collectors, but collectors of music as well. So there was a lot of that in the beginning. But again, like I said, I noticed with each and every release that you are going to have some detractors. But I think for the most part, since the release of originals, then I will beg to differ that the fan base has been just more supportive. So with originals, and then of course the 1999 Super Deluxe Edition, beyond your people that have everything and don't want anybody else to have anything, which I think is the minority, I think overwhelmingly everyone in the Prince musical singularity has been so happy with the direction that the estate has taken, the decisions that Michael Howe has taken, then there's less to be vocal about. So I guess what I'm saying is that there's not so much as people being vocal about supporting the legacy, because there's product that's available now that allow us to support it without question or without complaint at this stage. Where something like the Purple Rain Deluxe, yeah, there were some missteps with that. I mean, it's nice to have. I still enjoy it. But I also believe there'll be a better box set, not within the next few years. Maybe a 2024, around that time, maybe. And who knows? We'll see. But right now, that's all we have. But when that was released, yeah, there's a lot. It could have been as comprehensive and more historically accurate like the 1999 Deluxe. But, that's what we had. But like I said, we had more reason to be vocal about Purple Rain. So to answer that one, I think there's just less to be vocal about. And then with the Sony reissues, like I said, there's a lot of people that are bigger fans of the 90s material, bigger fans of the 21st century material than they are of the classic period. Or they're fans of the classic period, but they feel that the later stuff doesn't get enough attention. And to that, I'm going to say, just be patient. Wait till after 2021 and we'll see what we'll get. Like I said, there'll be some things we probably won't see in the next 3 years or 4 years, 5 years. But I would say within, I would say the next 5 to 10 years, I think, again, the estate and Sony will will figure out the best projects that will please everyone across the board, regardless of what era you're a fan of. There'll be something there for everybody. So, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I don't think that there's a lot of division. I think that division is in the minority now, but I don't know. I think for the most part, everyone's happy. But definitely, I Am Communicator, thank you for sending that topic in. And thanks for tuning in to the show. Definitely keep listening. But what's most important is, what do you guys think? Are you supportive, number one, of the decision to postpone the Rainbow Children and One Night Alone reissues to May 29th? Are you like me and feel like, hey, let's keep these logistics channels open so that our first responders and our healthcare workers can get all the equipment and supplies that they need, or, families or individuals that have been impacted by this, that need essential services like, say, prescriptions or just home supplies, food supplies, whatever is needed now that we're all on some type of a lockdown, or the world is on a lockdown. Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And now we're going to move to our second topic. And our second topic revolves around the confirmation of the air date of Prince's Grammy tribute. Of course, we all speculated or got word that they were looking at April 21st, which would be the 4th anniversary of Prince's passing, as the air date for this Grammys tribute. Now, the tribute was filmed in advance a few months ago, or a couple of months ago, and we'll get to see this on April 21st. So my thoughts, basically, the 21st air date, of course, check your local listings as far as the time. I'm assuming it would probably come on either here in the Midwest around maybe 7 or 8 p.m., thereabouts. Of course, East Coast is later, West Coast is much earlier. But the bottom line is, bring this thing on. If you could air it sooner, do it. But I think for right now, network television, because we're kind of we're getting close to that time to where most of these shows they filmed, like if it's scripted television, then they filmed their season finales already. Those are in the can. And those, each episode is already scheduled to come out. So I guess in a way, they really couldn't bump it up sooner. But again, if they're holding, since they're holding close to the April 21st air date, then again, bring it. Because hopefully by then, we'll get a little bit closer to having this all figured out, or maybe hopefully we'll be at least the beginning stages of, figuring this out and putting a stop to it or something, But I don't think things are going to get back to normal for a good while. But that being said, that April 21st air date is definitely welcome. Because on just about any level, and I know we're kind of stuck at home and there's very little we can do besides just take a walk. There's very little we can do that we can consider normal, because there is no more what's considered normal anymore. So, with that airing, we can use a little bit of normal. And I would say, too, if we can help it, let's not try to find any fault with the performances, because of the simple fact that, again, we can use some normal. Because remember, this was pre-recorded. So this was going on, at least in the United States, at least, where things were pretty much normal. So we all sank or swam based on those merits. And I know we had big criticism for the Usher. I know I had big criticisms for the Usher performance. And of course, too, when you had my initial reactions to that performance and even the idea of a Grammy tribute, remember, I was not a big fan of tributes. So to kind of make it clear, I'm a fan of reissues, not too much of a fan on tributes. But what made me more excited about this was the fact that you have Sheila E. as the musical director. So that was somebody that worked closely with Prince for a number of years. Definitely The Revolution, definitely Morris Day, and The Time are involved. To me, performers like Beck, yes, Prince had an influence on artists like Beck. You know, Gary Clark Jr. is a newer generation guitar player, you know, that's keeping that tradition alive. You know, a great bluesmith, you know, so he's carrying the torch for it. And there's some other artists as well, where Prince may have been an influence. And then I think maybe one or two or three artists are there because, again, this is network television, and the bottom line is always going to be ratings. So you'll have people that have to appeal to a certain demographic. That way they can ensure getting more viewers. The song selections, of course, heavy emphasis on the classic era. And of course, there are those detractors that feel that not enough attention should be given or was given to later periods, like later in the 90s, the 21st century material. But that being said, like I said, this is all for the ratings. And like I said, it draws people in. You know, not all of us that were around in the 80s became huge diehard Prince fans. You know, there's people that were around up until Purple Rain and just fell off after that. There were people that came in at Purple Rain and, in Prince's own words, became members of the audience he knew he would never see again, because they would just go scream at whatever the mainstream media said you should scream at, you know. So you'll have those demographics tuning in and hopefully rediscovering, hopefully discovering, or younger generations discovering again for the first time. You have to go through the hits first. And then once you go through those hits, then it's like, oh, well, what else is out there? And because he does have so much that's out and so much more that's coming in the coming years, then you'll have those generations pretty much on the same page or playing catch up, but they'll be on the same page as we are. So that'll be a good thing to look forward to. So I'm going to try to just not be overly critical when I do watch this thing. But like I said, I'm excited for it. And it'd be nice just to kind of, because it was pre-recorded, just kind of get a reminder of what the world was like before, you know, this last month and a half or so, or last few weeks or so. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what's going to come up with that. So, but what's most important is, what do you think? Are you excited for this Grammy tribute still? Are you a fan of tributes? Not a fan of tributes? Do you like the artist selection, the song selection? I know for me, because the emphasis is so much on the classic material, I feel, and especially now with the release date being pushed back, Sony should try to put together a commercial for Rainbow Children and One Night Alone and have that air, you know, 2 or 3 times during the broadcast of the tribute. And then that way, like I said, there's emphasis on the hits, but there's like, and especially now, because it's like, hey, here's some some healing music. Here's something on a spiritual level to listen to. So I don't know. I think Sony should consider doing something like that. And like I said, that also kind of gives some emphasis on some later material that's not just the obvious classic hits as well, and to show or basically, because they'll emphasize it during the broadcast, but a Sony commercial would definitely reiterate that this man was diverse and he was a genius, and there was more to him than just Purple Rain. So what do you think about that as well? Should Sony try to promote Rainbow Children and One Night Alone during the Grammy tribute? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And now we're going to move on to our third topic. And our third topic has to do with the Japanese release on CD of His Majesty's Pop Life. And His Majesty's Pop Life, for members of the Prince Musical Singularity and listeners of Amari Purple Talk that aren't familiar with this, it was a compilation. It's a 2-album, 2 LP compilation that was released around 1985. It was only sold in Japan. And basically it had your 12-inch or extended version of Let's Go Crazy, extended version of Erotic City. It had an alternate extended version of Pop Life, which is slightly different than the extended version or remix version of Pop Life that was officially sold or released by Warner Brothers, mostly in the United States and Europe. Let's see, there's also America that's on it. It also had 1999, and it also had the remix extended version of Little Red Corvette that's on it as well. But this was only available in Japan during, vinyl's heyday, and was only re-released during last year's Record Store Day. And again, it was only released on LP, which I was there at Record Store Day at my local record store and got my copy of it then. But word now that through Amazon in Japan, you'll be able to get a CD version of His Majesty's Pop Life. Now, again, we don't want to hear from the detractors. It's like, I've got everything already, and I don't know why they're doing that. They should put out, that Prince song where, he coughed on take 22, and that cough was remixed with a 30-minute guitar solo, and I can just go on and on, but we don't want to hear about that. Again, this is for the newbies. These are for the collectors. And again, if, having vinyl is great. I love vinyl. I'm glad it's back. But having a CD version of that wouldn't be a bad thing either. Because for the most part, given that the focus of the material, even though it kind of covered 1999 and Purple Rain era material, you have Pop Life, like I said, an alternate version of it. It might be a while before we get an Around the World in a Day deluxe edition. So, right now, like I said, there's been rumors of a Sign of the Times deluxe. There's been rumors of a Parade deluxe that has been finished for years now, and there's rumors that was put on the back burner for an eventual immediate release of a Sign of the Times Super Deluxe. And who knows? And like I said, it'll be a while before you get maybe an Around the World in a Day Super Deluxe. And guess what? It won't be Warner Brothers putting it out. It will be Sony. So whatever plans that Sony has when they get the classic material in 2021, then that could be the first Super Deluxe out the gate, or it could be a long time. So that being said, you have on CD, songs from that era. Oh, yeah, and the remix or the extended version of Raspberry Beret is on that too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it in front of me, so I have to go off of memory here. But, yeah, so, I mean, it'll be a while before we get those items in a single collection with a re-release or a remaster or a box set of Around the World in a Day. So this is something that can kind of tide you over until that day comes, because you have basically the hits, from it. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind having that and having that as part of the CD collection of things. So, and again, now we're talking about international shipments, and I'm quite certain that there'll be restrictions that are still placed on international shipments. So it may be quite a while before we can actually have that in our hands. I'm sure we can go on Amazon Japan. It's easy to do. All you have to do is, if you're on Amazon, you can change in your settings, you can change the country. And if you change the country, just change it to Japan. And then therefore you can order things from Amazon in Japan. And I mean, there's quite a few things kind of scrolling through their page that I noticed that I wouldn't mind having someday, but that'll be a topic for another day. But as far as His Majesty's Pop Life, like I said, even if you pre-order it or order it, I'm sure it's going to be a good long while before it actually makes its way into your hands, just because of the various shipping restrictions. And that's like more so commodity restrictions between various countries. So I don't know. But like I said, at some point, that's something I wouldn't mind having. And it was probably overdue to have it on CD. Again, of course, Record Store Day is a very special event, and that's the type of Prince release you would want to release on Record Store Day. I know there was a rumor that just a regular Sign of the Times LP was scheduled for this Record Store Day. That rumor turned out to not be true, thank goodness. But things like His Majesty's Pop Life, the Versace Experience, maybe certain one-off things, like, to me, actually we're going to get into this in the next topic, but something like One Song, should be released like as a special 45 or, 12-inch single. I don't know what you would put on the B-side, but, something like that should be definitely held for Record Store Day, and not just an album that definitely was not out of print. At least on vinyl, it was not out of print. There were no special features, no bonus discs or anything. My only guess, if that rumor turned out to be true, it was either going to be on probably purple vinyl, or worst case scenario, peach and black vinyl. So I don't know, but definitely His Majesty's Pop Life, that's something I would definitely love to have at some point on CD. But what do you think? Was that a release that you would like to have? I'm sure some of you have had the original 1985 release. I'm sure a lot of you got it on Record Store Day last year. But what do you think about having it on CD? Is that something you want to add to your collection? Do you want to pass on it in favor of something else? what would you like to see released on CD from either United States or Japan as a special release? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And now we are going to move on to our Purple Spotlight. And our Purple Spotlight is a segment that highlights a Prince album, film, video, or an associated artist. And today's Purple Spotlight is on one song. And basically one song, I know it's been out since 1999, or was released through the NPG Music Club. I didn't become a member until 2004. So this was one that I missed out on, and I only got to hear it like once. So I really couldn't really form an opinion or gauge a reaction. I just knew it was a pretty deep song. But it was during the week of Prince's passing. There were a lot of reaction videos on YouTube, and I was watching or listening to a podcast on YouTube, and the host of, well, not the host, he was actually the guest on the show, but this is somebody that, had an opportunity to meet Prince and speak with Prince, and was well familiar with his vast catalog beyond the officially released items. And it was this guy that brought up one song. And of course, because of copyright restrictions and things, he couldn't play it. But, he did mention that, hey, it's available to look at on YouTube. Definitely go check this out. It's deep, it's heavy. And even though at that time he was deep into the Jehovah's Witness doctrine, there's a lot of ideologies within the lyrics of that song that really aren't necessarily Jehovah's Witness. They're a little more esoteric, a little more Eastern, philosophy based, or Eastern spiritual system, based on those. And so when I had the opportunity to really go on YouTube and really listen to it, it has actually become pretty much among my top 5 favorite Prince songs. And the other 4 pretty much relatively may change depending on what the weather is outside. But other than that, one song is probably that, constant, or it holds a constant orbit within, my favorite Prince songs in that sort of upper echelon, so to speak. So, but again, we're dealing with some very heavy situations. And this is a song, it's very heavy. And you kind of have to put yourself in that place. But it's also something that is very beautiful, and is something that is definitely needed as a comfort. Some of you, again, like I said, may have it if you were around with the NPG Music Club from the very beginning. A lot of you have it and are aware of it. But for right now, I think you can listen to the song and then the official video for that song. And basically, it's just, Prince basically invented the lyric video. Let's put it that way. Even as far back as Sign of the Times, that was sort of like the first lyric video. For those of us that were excited about a Sign of the Times video and what that might look like, in 1987, we were disappointed that all we got were just the lyrics to the song on that video. But you fast forward to the 21st century, and people just eat up lyric videos. It's kind of the standard now. It's like, why spend so much money and shoot, all these pyrotechnics and special effects and flashy costumes and cars. Just put the lyrics up there, and make the the fonts, so appealing, that it becomes, it becomes something of a visual experience as well as a listening experience. But definitely one song was one of those sort of lyric videos, and that's, there's a huge spoken word part at the beginning, and that's where a lot of the deepness of it comes. The musical part of it is, it's just basically, telling you to project your own future, so to speak, create your own reality, something that has gained a lot of traction within the 21st century that we're in, and a lot of us are really trying to project a positive future now, or creating a reality that will allow us to, get through this crisis. And like I said, we need more of those songs. We need, forget your troubles type songs. And then we also kind of need that kind of, where we need a mantra, so to speak, or we need something to meditate to, or something to mellow out to, and things get a little bit heavy. Like I said, if you heard last week's episode and my bit of a rant about, like I said, not feeling like I personally make a difference in this, I'm not a hero, and I'm can't even think of the word, but let's just say I'm sort of tied to a certain corporate structure that has deemed what I do essential. But the individual, my coworker, we unite as a team, and we're just trying to get through it together. But for the individuals on the opposite side of that, there's very little that I've seen to where, like, oh yeah, okay, we're helping, we're making a difference. This is, going to benefit somebody. This is going to help someone in healthcare. This is going to help someone, that's a first responder. This is going to help an individual, that may have the virus, whatever. There's very little of that comes through. And like I said, for those that are not, they need to stay home. But basically, you heard my rant, and I don't feel like ranting about it again. But the funny thing about it was that Monday morning, as I'm, driving in to the gig, I pop in the USB, and the first song that comes on, and I didn't have it on shuffle or anything. It's just, I don't know, it's all the MP3 files or whatever. But that was, one song was the first song that popped up. And that was definitely needed because, I just kind of needed that balance. I kind of needed to stay centered to get through that day and then the other 2 days, that I have to deal with this. Other than that, after that, I get to stay in and try to make this show better and work on a few other projects as well. But, again, like I said, I'll be heading back into the trenches again tomorrow. And, like I said, that, one song definitely made a difference. I'm not going to get all crazy and say it was Prince speaking from beyond the grave, but it was definitely it was definitely some type of symmetry, that was taking place with that. And like I said, as I was driving in listening to it, I just thought that, man, we just need a song like that now. This needs to come out now, in lieu of the One Night Alone and Rainbow Children being postponed. One song is something you can drop digitally, drop the video on YouTube, drop that song, onto the streaming services. We still have access to Apple Music. We still have access to Tidal. We still have access to Spotify. Whatever your favorite streaming platform is, we have access to it. Or wherever you purchase your music, Amazon Music or whatever, as a digital download, that would be the perfect thing that's needed, and especially for a lot of you that haven't heard it. Like I said, go check it out. Check out the lyric video, or, just listen to the song. But this is something to me that definitely deserves an official release. So if anybody has the ear of the estate, if somebody has the ear of Sony, so they can get on the phone and call the estate and say, what's this one song? And, has that been cleaned up yet? And can we release it? Let them know. I think this would be a good idea. And like I said, and plus it kind of gives us something extra, because like I said, we're waiting for the, re-release to come out, or, the Rainbow Children One Night Alone release to come out now in May. Drop something like this, maybe drop something else that kind of follows those lines, or just a good Prince party song. Just drop those 2 tracks. They're whatever. They're $1.29 on Apple Music, or they're $1.29 on Amazon. Just drop that, and we'll fork that over. And like I said, we can just have that, and have that as a bit of a comfort, until then. Because I know unless they decide they want to just drop a concert or something on YouTube, I know they're kind of buffering it with the One Night Alone. They're dropping like different songs, and maybe eventually all of the songs from that DVD will be on YouTube, because they know basically that's just for the fans. Like I said, for those of us that had it and lost it, for those of us that worn out our copies of it and need a new one, it's part of the Up All Night set, or Up All Night Alone set. They know that's something that's not going to be mass marketed as a mainstream individual release. But, like I said, if they can drop some concert on DVD, that, again, would be a buffer. A lot of people entertainers are doing these concerts from home, and that's a nice touch. But, just kind of, again, give us something that reminds us of what the world was like up until a few weeks ago. And maybe that'll give us an inspiration to fight to get that back too. So, again, what do you think? Is one song one of your favorite Prince songs? Is it in your top 5, top 10? Where does it rank? Do you like that song, or do you think that maybe the estate should drop something else that would be like a bit of a buffer or a little bit of a comfort while we're staying at home? Definitely leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And now we're going to move on to our Bite the Boot segment. And our Bite the Boot segment is a segment that highlights a circulating bootleg or vault recording or video for consideration for an official release by the estate. And today's Bite the Boot selection is the Act 1 and Act 2 tours. All right, so the Prince, the Act 1 and Act 2, they were in support of the Prince album that basically had no title. We all struggled on what to call that thing. It was just the symbol, and that was before the name change. But at that time, it was the album simply known as, you can call it Love Symbol. You can call it whatever you want, or the MPG, Prince and the MPG album. But anyway, the Act 1 tour was from March 8th of 1993, and it went all the way through September of 1993. And there were 25 shows in North America, 27 in Europe, for a grand total of 52 shows in all. And basically, like I said, overall, it was to promote the Love Symbol album and kind of loosely the hits and the B-sides. And this was it was a tour that I missed out on. No real reason. It's just one of those I missed out on, whether it was financially, schedule wise, or I was going, dealing with a lot in 1993. So, I mean, nothing heavy or major or bad, but, lots of responsibility in 1993. So I couldn't make it for that tour. But I had a chance to check it out just prior to recording the show. And the Act 1, it was kind of one of those old-fashioned bootleg videos. There was somebody's big head in the way through most of it, and the guy with the camera was, trying to do what he can to maneuver around it and zoom in on Prince pretty well. And then there was the Act 2, which I couldn't find a good quality video on that one initially. But there is a soundboard recording out of Germany that I had a chance to really listen to. And I don't know, I'll kind of start with the Love Symbol album as something I had very high expectations for, and the album didn't meet those expectations. I really, really tried to love this album. When I first got it, I played it and was like, yeah, this is great. But subsequent listens, outside of a few songs, and God Created Woman, Morning Papers, let's see, Continental I still like. Let's see, Sexy MF, that one kind of grew on me from when I first heard it, because I bought the video for that first before I got the album, and it was kind of like it, I kind of grew on me over time. My Name is Prince, that would be a whole nother episode to really talk about that one. But I'll say this, on that Act 2, the arrangement of it, because it just wasn't heavily relying on the samples as the Act 1 tour did, but the way that the NPG was playing that song, I like that better. And I wonder if there's a more organic version of that exists. Because I know around that period, if you read a lot of like musical trade magazines like Musician Magazine or Keyboard Magazine or Guitar Player, things of that nature, whenever they talked about the creative process for Diamonds and Pearls and the Love Symbol album, it would be a thing of Prince brings in this cassette and it's the song, the songs are mostly on piano. But I also wonder too if there are versions that we just don't know about where, whether they were recorded at Paisley Park or if he still had a studio in his house or if they were on tour somewhere and it's, just the bare bones of it, maybe a drum machine still, bass, guitar, keyboard, just maybe the bare bones of it before the samples and all of that. But to me, I just like the more organic version of My Name is Prince based on that Act 2 tour. I enjoy that one quite a bit. But again, my feelings toward that album in general, like I said, it was one that I really, really, really wanted to like, and just over time just couldn't. And I've tried to go back and listen to it, but I'll say this though, I've read a lot of things about the recording of that album, and maybe that's where a lot of my misgivings come from. A lot of the songs originally had Rosie Gaines' voice on a lot of the tracks, And then when she left the MPG, Prince removed her tracks from the mix. So I wonder if her energy would add a certain element that wasn't there. Also, too, reading about the segues. There's a way that those segues are configured that makes the album a better listening experience. So there's that. So with those two things out of the way, I will say this. The 3 Chains of Gold video, I really rather just watch that than actually listen to the album in its released form. Because the whole thing was a concept album to begin with. But like I said, the concept fits the video version better. And watching the Act 1 tour, it lends toward the concept again. And of course, with Prince, it's a thing of a lot of performances of his are always at least 98% of the time, pretty much better than the record a lot of times, with all the tours and over the years and even certain rearrangements. Now, granted, on some tours, some arrangements, it's like, okay, you changed it a little bit too much, or it was changed for the better. And with this tour, the Act 1 tour, the arrangements of a lot of those songs from that Love Symbol album work better live than they did on the record. Like Blue Light, for instance, which, you've heard me say on this show, I am not a fan of Prince doing reggae, except for the one track on the unreleased material of the 1999 Super Deluxe edition. If it will make you happy. That song, to me, is Prince's best interpretation of reggae to me. But Blue Light, on the other hand, the live arrangement works a lot better than the album. So I prefer listening to the live version better than the album version of that. And there was some other songs too, like Continental was one. The Act 2, My Name is Prince, to me works better than the album, and it works better than the live version from Act 1 to me. Let's see, what else? That's about it. On Act 1, let's see. Now, let me backtrack because I'm also getting things confused with the Hit and Run 2000, which I also had a chance to look at as well. There was the back-to-back slow songs, but that was Hit and Run 2000. But, on the other hand, the ballads on this one worked well too. Let's see. God Created Woman on the Act 1 tour, where it was kind of like little snippets of 3 Chains of Gold added in for emphasis or effect. That arrangement, to me, and I love the album version as well, but to hear it live was really great to hear too. So this is definitely another item that, I would like to see the estate officially release one day. Now, given that the Love Symbol album is such a huge concept, I may end up just having to do a topic just on what a Love Symbol Super Deluxe would entail. Because you would have to include a lot of elements of the Act 1 and Act 2 tour. Which would be great. But for the sake of this segment, we'll just say that if you were able to put out given the length of that tour as far as time, the Act 1 tour was about over 2 hours, maybe about 2 hours and a half. So I would say you would have to do something along the lines of a One Night Alone set, kind of along those lines where you've got maybe 4 discs of, the Act 1 and Act 2. If you can fit all those into 4 discs, that's what you would have to do, or 6, or whatever it would take. So if you're just selecting a particular city or a couple of cities to make up 6 CDs, or again, take the best performances from whatever the best cities on that tour, and that's usually how most concert CDs or concert albums are usually made. Rarely, unless it's something like, so and so at the Carnegie Hall, and usually 9 times out of 10 with something like that, it's done over, if they had like a run, say like a 3-night run at Madison Square Garden or something, then it's like, oh, well, this set of songs worked better on night 1 than night 2. Let's go ahead and put that out, let's take that. And then night 3, maybe that second set of songs, mix that in. So usually it's a combination of the best songs from the best nights of those tours, or engagements. But I would say, like I said, if there's not one singular performance, like I said, this is historical in its own way, but not as historical as, say, Prince and the Revolution live at the First Avenue, or, Purple Rain tour in Atlanta, 1985, something like that, or the Musicology tour, Staples Center, the historical significance, it would be a prologue to the name change era. And you can almost argue, if you were going to do a box set or a compilation documenting that era, then you would start with Act 2, I guess, or a disc of one of the Act 2 performances. But again, just for the sake of just having a, 3 to 4 to 6 CD set of the Act 1 and Act 2 tours, then that's something I would like to see, the estate with Sony just put out as kind of, maybe just a one-off. Just, again, documenting that era. And then maybe the next thing after that, the next year or the next couple of years after that, then really dive deep into maybe the name change era. Somewhere down the line, like I said, I'll do a topic about the love symbol and what a box set of that would include. Also including the Act 1, Act 2 tour. And also down the road do a similar topic on the name change. Maybe I'll do them both in one week. I'm not sure. We'll see. Maybe that might be next week's topics, or depending on what's going on this week, we'll see. But anyway, but the Act 1, Act 2 tours is a standalone CD, whether it's 1, 2 CDs or a box set. Is that something that you're excited for? Would you like to see the estate release that one day? Is that one of your favorite eras? I know that having listened to Act 1 and Act 2, I wish I was there. So I wouldn't mind having it myself. So leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And that is going to end this week's episode of Amari Purple Talk. And of course, you can always find me on social media. Look for me on Twitter at RichardCole_now. And the now is in all caps. Also Instagram, RichardCole_Amari. And also be sure to check out my website, Amari Communications, at amaricommunications.com. Also, check out the Amari merchandise. There's links below to check that out. Get an Amari Purple Talk t-shirt, coffee mug. There's other Amari merchandise such as the We Funk, and that is to the last beat, to the last bass, to the last band. We Funk, very cool t-shirts. Be sure and check those out. Pick up one. And that is going to end this week's episode. Remember to always dare to create your own reality, and also keep it purple and on the one.